I visited the mansion as a housekeeper.
Mommy,
There was my daughter, Zoe, who had passed away. I tried to step closer to her, but at that moment, the woman who had hired me suddenly stepped in between us, raising her voice.
You were about to touch my daughter? Don't touch her.
She glared at me intensely before shifting her gaze to Zoe.
Rachel, I'm your mom, aren't I?
oh, I'm sorry.
Rachel's confession made it clear that she was my daughter, Zoe. Zoe, come with me. Without even stopping to ask questions, I grabbed Zoe's hand and rushed out of the mansion.
You kidnapped Rachel, didn't you? Give me back her.
The woman screamed at me as soon as I turned back to look at her. But if anyone had the right to yell, it was me. You really have the nerve to say that? You're the one committing a crime here, not me.
Amy, I'm home. Wait. What? Olivia.
It was her husband, Jacob, returning home. So you're alive after all, Jacob. His face turned pale in an instant. My name is Olivia Woods. I'm a 33-year-old stay-at-home mom. I live with my husband, Jacob, a business owner, and our 5-year-old daughter, Zoe. When I met Jacob through a mutual friend, he was still just a regular office worker. But after we started dating, I learned he dreamed of starting his own business. Jacob worked tirelessly to make that dream come true, studying day and night.
One day, I'll be a CEO. And when that happens, I'd love for you to be by my side, Olivia.
I wanted to support the man who smiled at me so confidently, so we got married. A few years later, our daughter Zoe was born, and Jacob has achieved his dream and was a CEO. Due to his jobs, Jacob was a busy man, so he left early in the morning and came home late. So naturally, I took care of everything at home. Sure, it wasn't always easy, but Zoe was a sweet kid, Jacob's business was thriving, and I was happy with our life. But lately, something had been bothering me. Jacob had been acting distant toward us.
Daddy, let's play together.
Daddy's busy right now. Go play somewhere else.
Even when Zoe tried to talk to him, he brushed her off without a second thought. At dinner, instead of spending time with us, he just kept staring at his phone. He wouldn't even look at me or Zoe. I knew he was busy with work. But it's strange that he would be cold even to Zoe. Hey, can you please spend more time with Zoe? I pleaded with him to make more time for our family. That's when Jacob finally lifted his gaze from his phone.
Are you trying to boss me around now?
No, that's not what I want.
I'm busy with my work. Just let me relax when I'm home. Oh, but I guess a stay-at-home mom like you wouldn't understand.
He smirked as he said it, the corners of his mouth curling up. Maybe he looked down on me because I was a stay-at-home mom. His attitude irritated me. The reason I became a stay-at-home mom is because Jacob asked me. I'm not good at housework and I want to focus on my job. So, I want you to quit your job and stay home, Olivia. I only stopped working because you asked me to. And now you're talking to me like this.
Just shut up already. Look, I don't have time to play with Zoe, and I sure as hell don't have time to argue with you.
With that, Jacob shut himself in his room, as if the conversation was over. No matter how stressed he was from work, that didn't give him the right to take it out on his family. Especially Zoe was only 5 years old and just wanted to play with her dad. I couldn't keep up with Jacob's sudden change in behavior, and for a while, I felt really down. Still, I had a household to run. Despite my mixed emotions, I did housework for Zosaki and Jacobs. But no matter how much effort I put in, Jacob's attitude never changed.
I'm home. Hey, Olivia, hurry up and heat up my dinner.
Even though Zoe was already asleep, Jacob barked orders at me in a loud voice. Keep it down. You're gonna wake Zoe up.
Who cares? I'm starving. Just hurry up and do it.
His behavior kept getting worse, and eventually he even started calling me a bum. I'd put up with a lot, but this was too much. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Enough already. Who do you think cooks your meals and does your laundry? Do you think it feels good to be called a bum? I confronted Jacob when Zoe wasn't around. I didn't want her to see us fighting like this. I had held back for so long, but I had finally reached my limit. But when I raised my voice, Jacob just scoffed.
Why do you think you can act all high and mighty? This house and the money are all mine, right?
Even if that's true. Just because he was the one earning money didn't mean he had the right to treat me like I was beneath him. All I wanted was for him to change his attitude. But apparently, even the fact that I stood up to him was unacceptable.
You know what? If you don't like it, get out of my house. Right now.
What?
If you want to stay, then shut up and do as I say.
Instead of reflecting on his actions, Jacob started treating me even more harshly from that day on. Any attempt to talk things out just made our marriage deteriorate even more. I knew things couldn't go on like this, so I decided to talk to his parents. Unlike Jacob, his parents were always kind. I hoped they could give me some advice on how to fix things. When I explained everything,
What? Jacob did that.
That's completely unacceptable. I feel sorry for Olivia and Zoe.
his parents, John and Kate, were furious. Then they immediately summoned Jacob to their home and began scolding him. Even Jacob couldn't argue back against his parents.
I'm sorry, Olivia. I went too far.
In the end, he apologized to me. I was beyond grateful to his parents for stepping in and helping. For their sake, I decided to forgive Jacob and went home that night. But the only reason he apologized was because his parents were there.
What the hell, Olivia? Would you snitch to my parents? You're just a damn bum. You don't even have the right to complain.
The moment Jacob arrived home, he started insulting me just like before. It was clear he hadn't reflected on anything at all. No matter how much housework I did, he just kept calling me a bum. And I could tell Zoe was starting to pick up on the tension between us.
Mommy, are you okay?
Lately, Zoe had been looking at me with a sad expression, worried about me more and more. This wasn't good for her or for me. Tired of being constantly criticized, I started considering divorce. Jacob seemed to want a divorce too, as he once casually handed me divorce papers saying, "If you've got complaints, just sign it." We both probably knew that separating would be best for us and for Zoe. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to make the final decision. Then one day, out of nowhere, Jacob suddenly said, "How about a family camping trip this weekend?" His unexpected proposal surprised me. What? Camping?
I finally realized I've been so caught up in work that I've been neglecting my family. And calling you a bum. That was completely out of line. I know you've been taking care of everything for us, Olivia. So, as a small way of making it up to you, I thought we could take a break together.
Jacob said with an apologetic expression. I was genuinely happy that he had finally reflected on his behavior. As long as you understand, that's all that matters. If this was his way of apologizing, I was willing to accept it. Besides, it had been at least a year or two since we last went on a family trip. Zoe is going to be so excited when she hears about this. Let's do it.
Really? Thanks.
And so, we planned our family camping trip. But when we arrived at the campsite Jacob had chosen, it was completely deserted. It was deep in the mountains, and there wasn't a single person in sight, not even other campers. Is this really okay? There's no one here, and we don't even have cell service. I couldn't shake my uneasiness and asked Jacob. He flashed a grin and casually replied, "It's fine. This is a hidden gem my friend told me about. It's rare to have the place all to ourselves, so be happy." Though I still couldn't shake my unease, I decided to make the most of the trip and fully enjoy the experience. The three of us worked together to set up our tent, and then we started preparing dinner.
I'll go collect some firewood.
While I cooked, Jacob went off to gather wood. Zoe was supposed to stay and help me with the cooking, but she seemed curious about collecting firewood. "I want to go with Daddy," Zoe insisted. Jacob refused multiple times, saying, "It's dangerous," but she wouldn't back down. In the end, she went with him into the forest. The strange incident happened about 30 minutes later. Suddenly, I heard a scream. No! That was Zoe's voice. There was no mistaking it. I rushed toward the voice. But when I pushed through the trees and emerged from the forest, I found myself standing before a cliff. The sight sent chills down my spine. Looking over the edge, I saw a steep drop-off leading to the ocean below. As I took in the scene, something unbelievable came into view. Caught in the branches growing from the cliff were one of Jacob's shoes and one of Zoe's shoes. No. No way. A terrible feeling crept up my spine, but the bottom of the cliff was too dark to see anything clearly. Frantically, I searched the forest for them, but they were nowhere to be found. I had to call the police. Giving up on searching by myself, I walked until I found a spot with cell service and called for help. The police arrived, but because of the strong waves and the late hour, they said it was too dangerous to search below the cliff that night. For several days, the search efforts continued desperately, but in the end, neither of them was found. The search was called off, and Jacob and Zoe never returned to me. Why, Jacob? Why, Zoe? For someone like me, who lost my parents at a young age, my only family was Jacob and Zoe. The shock of losing my beloved family was too much to bear, and I shut myself away for a while. I remember Jacob's parents being devastated as well, unable to cope with the loss of both their son and granddaughter at the same time. But our tragedy didn't end there. After Jacob's death, we discovered his company was drowning in debt and on the verge of collapse. If things continued this way, his employees would be in serious trouble. After much discussion, Jacob's parents and I decided to sell the company. We thought it would be better for the person who worked with him to take over the company than us who had no experience. In the end, selling the company allowed the employees to keep their jobs without worry, which was a relief. But that wasn't the end of our problems. We also discovered that Jacob had a significant amount of personal debt. Of course, I could have renounced my inheritance and avoided paying off his debts. But I couldn't bear to give up the house where the three of us had lived together. So, I chose to inherit everything. The debt was about $50,000. Since repaying the debt wasn't easy, I immediately started looking for a job and began working as a housekeeper, utilizing my experience as a stay-at-home mom. But life while repaying the debt was incredibly tough. Every month was a financial struggle. And no matter what I was doing, my mind kept drifting back to Jacob and Zoe. I knew I was getting mentally and physically exhausted. Then, 4 years passed. I finally managed to pay off Jacob's debt, and, while not wealthy, I was able to live a normal life. I still had a good relationship with Jacob's parents, and we met up regularly. After these 4 years, I had finally found a way to move forward. Then, one day, I was sent to a luxurious mansion for a housekeeping job. The client was, apparently, a family of 3. The previous housekeeper assigned to this mansion had taken a leave of absence due to illness, so I was filling in. Just looking at the house, it was clear they were wealthy. I was also advised by the previous person in charge to be careful not to be rude. With slightly trembling fingers, I hesitantly rang the doorbell. A woman, probably in her early 40s, opened the door. I introduced myself as a housekeeper and was invited inside. And then,
Mommy,
when I turned to the direction of the voice, there was my daughter, Zoe, who had passed away. I couldn't comprehend the situation and could only stand there in shock. Why is my lost Zoe here? If she had survived, she would be 9 years old now. And the girl standing there looked to be about 9 or 10. But more than anything, her face was exactly like Zoe's. I had looked at her photos countless times after she was gone. There was no way I could be mistaken. Tears welled up in my eyes as I looked at my daughter, who had grown taller than I remembered. Zoe, is that you? As if drawn by an invisible force, I stepped forward, reaching toward her. But before I could, the woman, my client, suddenly stepped between us and raised her voice.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Were you about to touch my daughter?
I'm sorry. The woman's name was Amy Brown, and she was in her early 40s. Amy shot me a harsh glare before turning to Zoe.
Rachel, this woman is just the housekeeper. I'm your mom, remember? What are you thinking?
I'm sorry.
Apparently, her name was Rachel. When Amy scolded her, Rachel weakly apologized. Amy then took Rachel into another room.
My daughter is Rachel. Who the hell is Zoe? Do not touch her.
I'm terribly sorry. I must have mistaken her for someone else.
Well, whatever. Just do your job, okay?
With that, Amy disappeared into another room. I had made a huge mistake in a client's home, and I deeply regretted it. Trying to hug someone else's child. That was completely out of line. But Rachel looked so much like Zoe that I couldn't help myself. When Rachel saw me, she called me Mommy. What did that mean? Even after leaving the Brown house that day, I couldn't stop thinking about Rachel. If I could, I would want to meet Rachel once more. But my actions had angered Amy. She had even requested to have me replaced. That meant I would never get to see Rachel again, or so I thought. The Browns' place? Yeah, I can go. Apparently, Amy had fallen ill and urgently needed someone to cover for her housekeeping. And since I was the only one available, I was assigned to the job. Amy had reluctantly agreed to it, so I immediately headed to the Brown. Hello, I'm here for the housekeeping job.
I didn't have a choice but to call you this time. And listen, whatever you do, stay away from Rachel.
Amy glared at me sharply, emphasizing her warning. She was being extremely cautious. When I agreed, Amy muttered that she was going to sleep and ordered me not to enter her room, telling me to leave immediately after finishing the cleaning and cooking before disappearing into her bedroom. It seemed like Rachel had been ordered to stay away from me as well because she remained locked in her room. I wanted to talk to her, but it seemed impossible. I quickly finished cleaning and making dinner, preparing to leave. But just as I was about to go, Rachel suddenly stepped out of her room. "Oh, Rachel, what's wrong?" I asked gently, but she kept her head down. Then, in a small voice, she asked, "Can you put a band-aid on me?" It looked like she had cut her finger on some paper. I took a band-aid from my bag and carefully placed it on her finger. In the midst of it, I noticed some dust caught in Rachel's bangs as she kept her head down. "Hold still for a second, Rachel." I gently brushed off the dust from Rachel's hair, and in that moment, I caught a glimpse of her forehead. Wait, this scar. On Rachel's forehead was a small stitched-up scar. I was left speechless when I saw it. Zoe had the exact same scar in the exact same spot. It was a scar from when Zoe was little and had fallen. She had always been self-conscious about it and grew out her bangs to cover it. Memories flooded back and my vision blurred with tears. "Are you really Zoe, right?" The moment I spoke those words, Rachel's eyes filled with tears.
Mommy, it's really you, isn't it?
Rachel, no, Zoe, clung to my clothes with her small hands, holding on tightly. I wrapped my arms tightly around Zoe. I wanted to know why she was here, but more than that, I was just overwhelmed with joy that she was alive. Silently, making sure Amy wouldn't hear, we held each other tightly, savoring our reunion. But there was no time to dwell on this moment. "Zoe, come with me." Without stopping to ask questions, I grabbed Zoe's hand and led her out of the mansion. I couldn't leave her in a place like this. Zoe held onto my hand just as tightly, as if she had been waiting for this chance to escape. After leaving the mansion, I asked Zoe about what had happened, and I was left speechless. So that's what happened. After thinking it over, I decided to leave Zoe in the care of my trusted friend and head back to the mansion. When I arrived, Amy was in a full-blown panic, having just realized Zoe was gone.
You kidnapped Rachel, didn't you? This is a serious crime. Give me back her.
The moment she saw me, she started screaming. But if anyone had the right to yell, it was me. "You have the nerve to accuse me of kidnapping?" You're the real criminal here.
No.
As I stood my ground, Amy's confidence wavered. I could see the panic in her eyes. I was about to confront Amy.
Amy, I'm home. Wait, what? Olivia?
Amy's husband had returned. The moment his eyes landed on me, they went wide in shock. So, you really were alive after all, Jacob.
Oh no, I mean,
Amy's husband was Jacob. His face went completely pale. Whether she realized the truth or not, Amy panicked and kept insisting, "Kevin, this woman kidnapped Rachel. Do something now." According to Zoe, Kevin was Jacob's alias. And Rachel, that was Zoe's fake name. I stood there, quietly listening to their exchange.
why is Olivia even here in the first place? Amy, explain this.
She's the housekeeper. I hired her for cleaning.
Is she a housekeeper?
The moment he heard those words, Jacob's face twisted in shock.
She's my ex-wife, Rachel's real mother. And you let her into our house.
Jacob exploded in anger, yelling at Amy. But Amy wasn't about to back down.
What are you talking about? You're the one who never wanted to talk about your ex-wife. I didn't even know her name or what she looked like.
Even so, if Olivia found out, this could be bad.
Jacob clutched his head, seemingly realizing his own fault after hearing Amy's words. It seems that Amy didn't know I was Jacob's wife. But the moment Zoe called me Mommy, she had gotten a bad feeling.
I knew I had to be careful about you and Rachel interacting. That's why I specifically had the housekeeper changed.
Amy bit her lip in frustration.
I can't believe you took Rachel. Are you out of your mind?
Is it true? Did you take Rachel?
Jacob jumped in, raising his voice at me as well. I couldn't hold back my anger at his attitude. You have some nerve blaming me. Jacob, you lied to me. You faked your death, made it look like you fell off that cliff, and you could go on living like this?
Well,
As I stepped toward Jacob, he averted his gaze, clearly flustered. He had been too focused on Zoe being taken that he hadn't even considered the fact that his survival had been exposed. He fell silent, losing his previous vigor. So, your silence means you're admitting to deceiving me? I was about to press him further when Amy suddenly jumped in.
Wait, you've got it all wrong. He's not Jacob. He's my husband, Kevin.
I couldn't help but laugh. It's too late. There was no way he could pretend to be someone else now. Kevin Brown, that's just an alias, isn't it? When I called him by that name, Jacob dropped his shoulders.
so you figured it all out.
Of course. I took out the documents I had from my bag and showed them to the two of them. In reality, I had been secretly investigating Kevin Brown, Amy, and Rachel for some time. Truthfully, investigating a client was against company policy. But in this case, I was looking into my husband and daughter. As a result, I'll just say that I also discovered Amy's connection through my husband. Amy was apparently from a wealthy family and had been living in this mansion for about 10 years. Then, a few years ago, Kevin started living here with Rachel. Kevin had told everyone that Rachel was his daughter from a previous marriage, explaining, "Rachel has always been shy and doesn't talk much." But Zoe wasn't shy. On the contrary, she loved talking to people and would eagerly strike up conversations even with strangers. Jacob had likely warned Zoe behind the scenes, telling her, "Don't say anything unnecessary." I also heard that Rachel didn't go to school and had been shut away at home the whole time. According to Zoe, Jacob had told her, "You are not allowed to go outside alone." In other words, she had been forbidden from going outside. "I know you kept Zoe locked up to prevent the truth from coming out." At those words, Jacob flinched.
You know that much.
"Oh, and I also know about your fake ID. That's how you managed to live like this, right?" There was only one person here who could have arranged something like that. "Amy, you were the one who got those fake ID, weren't you?"
No, I was.
"I know you and Jacob were having an affair. You got this ID to live together, didn't you?" Through my investigation, I discovered that Amy and Jacob had known each other for years. Amy was particularly fond of Jacob and even helped him when his business started to fail. In addition, according to his employees, I even heard that they saw that Amy and Jacob were in frequent contact. "So, you were having an affair this whole time. And instead of divorcing me, you faked your death so you could be with your mistress." Amy bit her lip, refusing to say a word. Jacob stayed silent as well. "So," I asked again, "why go through all this trouble instead of just divorcing me?" Jacob then shouted, "I was going to divorce you, but Olivia was the one who refused." It's true that Jacob once showed me divorce papers. But at the time, I couldn't decide, so I told him, "I need time to think." Back then, I wasn't sure if getting a divorce was the right decision for Zoe. But if you were cheating, that changes everything. Why didn't you just tell me, "I have someone else, I want a divorce"?
Are you kidding? If I admitted to cheating, I'd have to pay you alimony.
Jacob had wanted to keep his affair a secret and divorce me without any trouble. But after I refused the divorce, Jacob complained to Amy, saying, "My wife is whining about not wanting to get divorced."
When I heard Jacob's story, I couldn't stand his wife. I wanted him for myself right away, so I suggested making fake ID.
She spoke as if it was nothing, but this was a serious crime. I was so stunned, I couldn't even respond. Jacob, now emboldened by Amy, spoke up too.
My business was failing, and I was done with everything. I didn't want my company or Olivia anymore. So, I decided to start over.
Unbelievable. Jacob, who once dreamed of starting his own business, is no longer with me. He had worked so hard to build his company, and just because things didn't go well, he threw it all away? Do you even realize how devastated your employees were when they thought you had died? So many of them were terrified about their future without you. You played with people's lives just because it was convenient for you?
But the company got sold, and things worked out, right? So, no problem.
He laughed, completely unfazed. I could feel my entire body shaking with rage. One more thing. Why did you take Zoe? Do you have any idea how much I suffered these past 4 years? At this point, I didn't care about Jacob's betrayal. But I would never forgive him for taking my daughter. Then he spoke with annoyance.
I wasn't planning on taking her, but she kept whining about wanting to come collect firewood with me. I couldn't refuse and didn't want to raise suspicion.
So, you just took her? Jacob's original plan was to make it look like he had fallen off a cliff while collecting firewood, fake his death, and escape with Amy. But it was a miscalculation that Zoe followed him.
If I had left her in the woods or by the cliff, she would have figured out I was alive. So, I had no choice but to take her with me.
She was nothing but a burden to me. Kevin and I were supposed to live alone, so maybe this is the perfect opportunity. I'll give your daughter back to you.
Yeah, Olivia already knows everything now. No point in keeping Rachel.
After that, Jacob and Amy began living together with Zoe, but it seemed neither of them truly cared for her. I could feel my anger boiling over again. Zoe had been locked inside this house, treated coldly by a woman she didn't know. Even her own father, Jacob, had been cruel to her. For 4 years, she had endured so much pain. I will never forgive the two of them for hurting my precious daughter. I'm reporting this to the police. I glared at both of them and declared my intent. But instead of looking worried, they just smirked.
Go ahead and say whatever you want, but it's pointless. Our ideas are so convincing that even the police wouldn't doubt them. No one's going to believe they're fake.
In what? You think a kid's testimony will hold up? The cops will just brush it off as a child's imagination.
They were confident they wouldn't get caught. But they were underestimating me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a voice recorder. Too bad for you. I've recorded everything we've talked about. With this, you won't be able to deny a thing. And I've gathered plenty of other evidence. The police will love this. The moment I said that, the two of them rushed toward me with incredible force.
Give me that recorder. Now.
You never said you were recording.
I immediately turned on my heel to escape the mansion, but the two of them, with terrifying expressions, chased after me, trying to snatch it away. Then, at that moment,
Jacob, so you really are alive.
Wait, Dad, Mom?
Jacob's parents stood in front of the mansion. Jacob froze, and Amy seemed confused, unable to grasp the situation. Seeing their stunned faces, I couldn't help but smirk. Before I left Zoe with my friend, I had taken her to see Jacob's parents. The moment they laid eyes on her, they burst into tears. Zoe also cried as she reunited with them after all these years.
I can't believe Zoe is alive. This is the happiest moment of my life.
Olivia, what's going on? And what about Jacob? Could he still be alive too?
Jacob's parents, hoping he was still alive, had their eyes sparkling with anticipation. Though it was difficult to say, I explained everything. As they listened, their faces gradually turned red with rage.
Olivia, is this true? Jacob had an affair, and he faked his death while taking Zoe.
I can't believe our son would do something so horrible. Olivia, we are so sorry.
Please, don't apologize. Jacob is the only one to blame for this. After explaining the situation, I told them I was heading back to the mansion to report Jacob and Amy to the police. Hearing this, his parents immediately stood up.
We're not letting you go alone. I'm coming with you.
Me too. I have plenty to say to that disgrace of my son.
Jacob's parents insisted on coming to the mansion with me. That's why I had brought them along.
No way. You brought my parents.
Jacob muttered, his face turning ghostly pale. It seemed he had assumed that, after all these years, I had lost contact with them. Amy, seemingly shocked by the appearance of Jacob's parents, fell silent.
Do you have any idea what Olivia and Zoe have been through because of you? You put them through so much suffering with your selfish choices.
I didn't raise you to be like this. You are no longer my son. From this day forward, we cut all ties with you. Never show your face to us, Olivia or Zoe again. That's the only reason we came here.
Jacob, under the harsh scolding from his parents, slowly started to tear up.
Wait, but I'm alive. Shouldn't you be happy about that?
You're not our son anymore.
Desperate, Jacob tried to beg for their forgiveness, crying as he reached for them. But their anger was far beyond something an apology could fix. Then, their rage turned to Amy.
You only cared about yourself. This is a serious crime.
Jacob and Amy had been acting confident until now, but realizing they were outnumbered 2-3, their demeanor quickly turned weak. I left them to Jacob's parents and used the opportunity to call the police. After the police arrived, Jacob and Amy resisted for a while. but realizing they couldn't escape, they were eventually taken into custody. We silently watched as they were taken away.
This is the worst. I was finally going to be happy with Amy.
This wasn't supposed to happen. Why?
They sobbed, their shoulders shaking. But it was too late for regrets. For the first time in years, I felt a deep sense of relief. After that, Jacob and Amy were officially charged with forgery and the use of forged documents. In the end, the case escalated into a major investigation that uncovered the organization Amy had used for the forged ID, landing both of them in the newspapers. In a way, they had become infamous. Jacob was also charged with kidnapping Zoe. I want them to face the full consequences for the pain they inflicted on Zoe. That is what I hope for. With everything settled, I officially divorced Jacob. Amy was ordered to pay me damages, and Jacob was forced to pay both damages and child support. At first, Jacob protested, "I don't have any money to give you," but that excuse didn't work. I had undeniable proof that he had been cheating for 4 years. He faked his death and lived with his mistress. There was no denying it. In the end, Jacob had no choice but to accept the payments for both damages and child support. Amy had come from a wealthy family, but all of her money had been inherited from her parents. After starting to live with Jacob, Amy indulged in a lavish lifestyle at his urging, spending excessively until her savings were completely depleted. But at this point, she didn't even have the energy to argue and simply complied with the settlement. Through their lawyers, both Jacob and Amy made lump sum payments from what little savings they had left. Now, both of them are behind bars. They won't be getting out for several years. I hope they take that time to truly reflect on everything they've done. As for me, I am finally living in peace with Zoe.
Mom, can we sleep together tonight?
For the past few months, Zoe had been clinging to me, as if trying to make up for the 4 years we were apart. Of course, I was happy, but her actions revealed the depth of the emotional scars she carried. Whenever I sensed that pain, I would hold her tightly, doing my best to reassure her. Jacob's parents also worried about Zoe and visited frequently. Together, we poured all our love into her, trying to make up for the lost time. Slowly but surely, Zoe was beginning to look forward.
Mom, I think I want to start school tomorrow.
Really? Are you sure you're ready? You don't have to rush. For 4 years, Zoe hadn't been able to attend kindergarten or elementary school. I had always told her she could take her time. But now, she had found the desire to make her friends on her own. And as her mother, I wanted to support her. Mom, Grandpa, and Grandma will always be on your side.
Thank you.
I wanted to love Zoe so much that the past would no longer matter and cherish every moment of her growth.